Well. You're listening to Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright then, I may say words on point, straightforward. No jibber jabber, everybody forward. Issues, facts and solution. Get it at Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright, what other thing is a revolution? Get it on point with Professor Buitrón. Gloves Off, no nonsense issues, politics, community. A better men for Laredo. Gloves Off, a revolutionary show with everything that you need to know. With Professor Buitrón. Watch ya!
The following political paid advertisements do not reflect the political opinions of the program or its associates. Any political campaign or candidate who wishes to purchase advertising can do so. Advertising is open to all on behalf of Gloves Off.
You think is happening, how we should take care of it. Got you, yes. Yep. I'll start it back up. You can put it in the maybe.
Yeah, just leave it there for now. I have them just in case I need them.
Okay. 5, 4. Back at you, Gloves Off. I'm Professor Buitrón. I'm here with Attorney at Law Joey Tellez, and we're going to be talking about the different little ordinances that are here and what's going on with them. How are you doing, Counselor? You doing good?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And you've been a little bit more outspoken than others about the ordinances. Why? Explain to us what's going on with these ordinances.
I think it's an interesting, we have a serious problem going on with the virus and the pandemic that we have in front of us. There's a lot of uncertainty, and our city council has tried numerous times to issue orders in response to these problems we're running into. And I think one of the problems we've run into is the severity of the punishment. Most jurisdictions, they were giving fine only, essentially tickets. The punishment for violating this ordinance, it's a misdemeanor. It's the up to 180 days in jail. And so the punishments have been severe. And also in their rush to get these ordinances or these emergency orders out, they've left these big loopholes where they're intending for some behavior to stop, but they're leaving these big loopholes that it's pretty rough, because they're telling you one thing and the police department is enforcing that same thing, but that behavior isn't necessarily against the order because the order has a big loophole in it saying that you can do it.
Can you show us an example, or tell us an example of one of the loopholes, or not loophole, or what's going on, like an example of?
Well, one of the problems we've had is that we've had multiple orders, And they come in and they say certain things are allowed, certain things are not allowed, and then and this is early on, 3 days later, they'd issue another order, and then they would completely take things out of the order, and the police department's trying to enforce it, thinking that that language is still in the order, and it's not even there. I've spoken to numerous city officials. Some city officials don't even know what's in the current order because they've been changing it so often. So you run into, there's no real, there hasn't been a consistency throughout the different orders. And while they're doing certain things, they've allowed exercise. The intention of the city council right now is for everybody to wear a mask outdoors completely. That was the intention. Like, if you listen to their meeting, and it's available online, they had a meeting on April the 6th, they wanted to make people wear, not necessarily masks. It doesn't have to be a mask.
A covering of your face.
Exactly. It can be a bandana, it can be all
Right.
sorts of other stuff. I just use mask for shorthand instead of hand.
Sure.
But they intended for, at any point in time that you're outside, for you to have to wear a covering. Well, when they wrote the order that came out the very next day, you can ride in your car alone. If you're alone in your vehicle, you don't have to wear a mask. If you're on your property, you don't have to wear a mask. If you're all by yourself in a single space, which that's one of the big, what does that mean? That's not, you don't have to wear a mask. And obviously for the safety ones, like if I can't breathe, or if they're elderly or an emergency situation. And obviously I have my coffee with me, so if I want to drink my coffee, I can't drink it through the mask. So the way that they wrote it created so many loopholes that it kind of, you open the door for it to be pretty much almost unenforceable regulation.
And we're talking about unenforceable regulations because there's a lot of talk that a lot of these orders, both from the state and from the city, and from a mayor or a governor imposing these orders, that they go against both the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. And that they're not enforceable as per se. They're more like a guideline of what we should do, and when it comes down to it, it's really not enforceable. What's the truth behind that?
I disagree with that idea. They're absolutely enforceable. The president has declared a state of emergency. The governor has issued the same declarations, and that gives them great leeway in changing the rules or adding regulations for a short period of time while the emergency exists. But these are regulations, and
Sure.
And there is a problem we deal with when I talk to normal people, non-attorneys. It's very difficult to remind people. People think, well, if this is not correct, you can't cite me.
Sure.
The police department's going to cite you.
They're going to cite you for many other things as well.
Yes, and they've been wrong before, many
Sure.
times. There's plenty of people that can test it. The thing is, right now, if the police department catches you outside and without a mask, you're going to get a ticket. It's really simple. It's going to be more of a fight in court than the fight to not get the ticket. Okay, and it's good practice. You should wear a covering. I would tell everybody, whether you may not like it, they're hard to breathe through. It gets warm. If you're wearing glasses, they fog up your glasses. They're annoying, but the alternative is much worse. I'd rather have to worry about a mask than be on a ventilator. But wear the mask. I would tell everybody.
Absolutely. Nobody's telling anybody don't wear a mask. It's just the thing. Good. And what I would put in is, when you look at these, I think they were talking more about stuff like you can't go to church, a mass assembly, freedom of religion, due process. I think that's what people are basically talking about, because we have a governor, in the state of Texas, anybody that comes from Louisiana is placed in quarantine, 14-day quarantine. But yet our bridges are open, they go and cross every day back and forth, and they eat tacos in Mexico and come over here, And over there, who knows if they're enforcing any type of laws or if they're following ours. I thought a border was border. I thought we should have been all shut off. So once you start seeing that type of, I guess, discrimination, if you want to put it that way, are you going to discriminate against the Americans from Louisiana across instead of the Mexican citizens? What's enough is enough. Understand what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. As far as the bridge, the POE, port of entry, there are rules. The Customs Service, Customs and Border Protection Service has regulations. They've cut a lot of non-essential traffic. What we do have, although we don't see a big dip in it, is the 18-wheeler traffic, but what comes in those 18-wheelers is what is filling up the aisles at Walmart and Sam's and all our stores. So that stuff, that type of traffic is still happening. But as far as pedestrian and you know, the day people that would come and
Day to day.
the day-to-day,
Has that diminished?
that's been pretty much shut down. Very early on, my understanding is there were regulations that they cut the daily traffic, the border crossers. But as far as dealing with people from other states, that's usually been in direct relation to where, for example, in Louisiana, a state that didn't take any warnings early on, they ignored it, and then they still held Mardi Gras, and then within a week you had a mushroom of COVID cases in New Orleans because you had a big congregation of people in one spot. And
From all over.
from everywhere, yeah. The same thing in Florida. You had the spring breakers in Florida, the ones that, oh, well, we don't care, whatever. Well, now you got a big spike in numbers in Florida, and then they go back home and they take it to their communities, which is kind of what happened here in Laredo. Is how it started. Is somebody had, you had people that through, and many people believe that this virus has been out a lot longer than we know, because some of the early people weren't even out of town, but there was a couple that were, and you have that spread, and especially with the people that are asymptomatic, that don't even know that they have it. So you run into that dilemma that city council is encountering right now, is how do we work on something that we don't necessarily know everything about? We have incomplete information, and then we have other misinformation about other stuff, and it's just a perfect chaos situation, and city council's trying the best they can. It's just sometimes when you put out too many regulations in a short period of time, you run into some issues.
Absolutely. We've seen, and there's even here in Laredo, there's a lot of misinformation from the medical field to the health department. There are two different schools of thought. But all these issues that are coming up with COVID, the change that are in Laredo is basically what we're here to talk about. And where do you see this going in the near future, and where would it have an end, or all that good stuff? When's enough of changing orders and so all that?
Well, I don't know. I don't think anybody else can give you a concrete answer at this point. It's going to have to be a point where the number of new cases have slowed down. We have problems right now with even knowing how many cases we have. We supposedly have 246, so we're somewhere around 250 here in Webb County. We really don't know, because we don't have enough tests. Then you run into treatment. If we let all the kids go back to school, which I'm sure many parents would love to have their kids go back to school, putting all these kids in that sort of environment, how is that going to deal with the numbers?
Mm-hmm.
And if we start putting everybody back to normal, how is that going to change? We don't have the medical capability for 300 people to get sick tomorrow in all the beds in all the hospitals of Laredo. We don't. And it doesn't matter how hard our doctors try, they're trying.
No, they're doing great.
But we don't have the capacity for that. And we don't have a real treatment, a solid treatment that everybody knows. And even if we did have the solid treatment, do we have access to the supplies? I mean,
You know,
We've got problems.
there's a lot of variables. You know, yesterday I was talking to several that, one was a student, one's a good friend of mine, and they both work here at Providence. They said, we're for low ibuprofen. They basically shut down Providence. I don't know why come they're not using it to help out COVID patients. I go, so how can we talk about beds and talk about everything else, and all of a sudden we shut down a perfectly well, healthy hospital? You know what I mean? So, or an arm of one, you know, so you're like, gee, what's going on? What are we really combating? I would like to know exactly how many, you know, are inside the hospitals right now. Or are they just sending a person that comes in and say, you go home and self-isolate yourself, and if it gets any worse, then come back in?
One of the issues we've dealt with this illness is the unique issues to the United States.
Sure.
Okay, we have HIPAA laws, privacy laws. People's health information is not available. We're one of the few countries that does that. Other countries, for example, South Korea, if you tested positive, not only did the government know where you were at all points in time, they would put your face on the internet so that people could say, I saw so-and-so, and tracked where you were at. If you weren't wearing protective gear, they could call the government on you. And it was sort of that sort of self-policing and government policing that would never work in the United States because of our civil liberties, our HIPAA laws, everything that makes us us. So knowing how many people are in the hospitals now, we're never going to get a real accurate number. And then these are private businesses that don't have to release that information to us. But just saying, having an employee say, well, they closed down, those are decisions made at an administrative level. And right now, we had Dr. Cigarroa
Sure.
basically out the information that we've had at least 50 healthcare workers test positive. We can have 3 hospitals, but do we have enough nurses to man all 3 hospitals? We have doctors right now that haven't tested positive, but are in self-quarantine because they've been exposed to somebody or they are afraid of exposing. So just because we have 3 hospitals doesn't mean we can operate 3 hospitals. And it's not like finding new toilet paper. You can't just bring in another doctor and make one in 6 months. I mean, they're kind of hard to get. And nurses, también. I mean, nurses are heart and soul. These are the ones that are actually seeing every patient, dealing with every patient, you know, for hours at a time. And we don't have enough nurses to man all these. I mean, they're working overtime. I have a good friend of mine that she's separated from her family because she's working, and out of fear of exposing her kids and her husband, she's stuck by herself.
Absolutely, and we praise all the hard work that everybody's done, because right now everybody's been hit.
Absolutely.
Everybody's been hit, and if somebody says this person's been hit the hardest and this other one, it's something to be, that's not it. We're not being self-righteous. That's not what it is. Everybody's been hit across the board. I mean, there's small businesses that are not gonna come back because of this. You know, that's another topic, but you know, the city of Laredo basically didn't help any small business. No whatsoever, you know, and you're gonna have a lot of empty storefronts when we get back in. And the further we prolong this, the further we're gonna see more death to our economy. And it's gonna be very hard to come back in there. So we have to basically, instead of fighting, you know, I've fought in the ring and so on and so forth, I'm gonna analyze this in the fight in the ring. You go in there against an opponent that you maybe a little bit high strung in the first round and comes out swinging, and you basically move around and got hit a bunch, and you're sitting down in the corner during the rest round, and you're basically talking to your coach. Now I'm gonna have to go in there and do what? Go back into the offensive. So I think the United States is right now at that point in time of, we have to put a date. The people that are healthy and the ones that can work, let's put them in there. Let's take care of our kids, let's take care of our elderly, and let's see how we can get this country back forward again before we basically crumble away. You know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. This has been a process, though. These are things we talked about, we put on our site from the beginning about trying to help each other out, supporting other small businesses locally from the beginning. And how long is this going to last? There's going to be a time that people, out of economic necessity, are going to voluntarily put themselves back in. to the workforce and do get around the stay-at-home order, that I understand that part, but there's ways to do it responsibly. Having 500 people at a church for Easter, dipping their hands in the holy water to give the sign of the cross is not one of them. Going back to the normal life we have right now, it isn't necessarily it. Congregating in big numbers isn't necessarily the wisest thing, not yet. There'll be a day, and that's something that the doctors will have a better grasp of it once we're able to have the necessities. We don't even have enough masks. I mean, that's why the city council ordinance is a covering, because if we were to force everybody in Laredo to go buy the N95 masks, which is what's recommended, you're not going to find them.
No, they're no.
And then you're going to be paying an outrageous fee because the wholesalers are charging the local retailers. I have a client that's a medical supply company, and he says the masks that he has now, he's selling them for 5 times what he paid before the virus, because that's what they're charging on. The materials to make those masks have gone up in cost. So everything has changed. But locally, what can we do? Help each other out, support small businesses.
Of course.
Instead of going to HEB, go to Obregon's, go to the restaurants that are selling produce, go to Variety, go to
Reese meat markets.
Louise,
You know what? You're the second person I've heard that, and that means that you're somebody, just by saying that cares about the community, and that right there is special. Understand? Because a lot of people don't. Everybody's hoarding HEB. Everybody's going to Walmart. Everybody's going to Sam's. We have to support the local meat markets, Reese, Variety, not Vice. You know what I'm saying? Those are the ones that we have to actually go. And I'm glad that you said that. I mean, I commend you, because that's what we need.
Well, that's the way we can take care of our own.
Yep,
Because
absolutely.
one of the things I think that one of the great things, we got to look at this as an opportunity. I think one of the things I've been grateful for of this virus is I've been able to spend time with my family a little more than I've been able to. And I think it's also given us and reminded us that we are a community and we are in this together. Because pre-virus, everybody was on their own. But we realize now how interconnected we are. If something happens to you, it does affect. It can affect me, and it will affect me. We are all in this together.
And those are good words. Now we're coming out of time, and it's a great talk, and it's great to see a nice point of view that is not mentioned live. Everything's this fear mongering, and we can't have that. But what we need to understand, let's get a person that's gotten into trouble, gotten a ticket. Over one of the ordinances, what can he do? What would you counsel somebody that's run into some trouble with these ordinances?
Well, first of all, come in, call my office. The day is law. It's 956-717-8200. We're doing consultations through FaceTime or video chat. We have our office closed to the public because I have staff and they've got to protect their families as well, and to protect our clients. So call us in, let us know what happened. I mean, look, it's always advisable wear the mask. But if you're stopped for whatever reason, you don't have it on or you have it down. I mean, there's people that work out and they have the mask on and then they pull it down because they're out of breath. Talk to us about the circumstances, what exactly happened, and we'll get you ready to go to court and fight it there, whether it be municipal court or one of the county courts at law. Because there is jail time that you're potentially looking at. But it just depends on how vigorous the city is going to do it, how they're going to prosecute it. These are arrestable offenses. They can take you to the county jail. And unfortunately, right now is not. It's never advisable to take a trip with a law enforcement officer to go downtown, spend the night, or wait until somebody bonds you out. It's even less advisable now. You're going to be there with a bunch of people, and there is no social distancing requirements inside the Wood County Jail. So be nice, be polite, wear your mask, and stay safe.
Absolutely. Good words. Folks, back again, comply, get stopped by an officer, comply. Be the most cordial person you can be. And that's it. And you deal with, if they were being hard with you, and deal with it later on. Folks, let's protect each other. We are wearing masks, and let's start doing that a little bit more. If you're gonna go to the grocery store, send one person, don't go the whole family. Now there's an ordinance against people under 14 years of age. Let's just protect each other out, okay? Till next time, peace.
The following political paid advertisements do not reflect the political opinions of the program or its associates. Any political campaign or candidate who wishes to purchase advertising can do so. Advertising is open to all on behalf of Gloves Off.